thing we're going to do is slow flight. We need a visual reference out the window. We're going to use that mountain out there. We're going to stay at 6,000 feet.
Up to the field, 14,500 feet below. Additional jumpers at 2 minutes, 14.5. Do not overflight your way.
All right, we'll make sure the plane's trimmed. We've done our pre-maneuver checks. Power's back to 2,300. All right, first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring the power back to 1,500. And we're going to maintain. Do not allow the airplane to descend. Okay, as soon as we're in the white arc, flaps 10, 25, full. All right, now as the airspeed decays, we can start to bring the power back in. This is the secret to slow flight, is remembering power settings. For this particular flight, because we don't have a lot of fuel, if we see we're starting to climb, we'll reduce that pitch. Maintain our heading. And in this particular case, with the weight loading, I think 2,200 is going to be about perfect. And once the aircraft is stabilized, that means the speed is stabilized, we can go ahead and trim out for slow flight. Lots of right rudder, because you're going to have a lot of torque. And you can almost get this hands off. So you can see we're hands off right now. And I'm just using rudder pedal to keep it straight. That is a well-trimmed aircraft. Okay, so we're at 52, minimum controllable airspeed, a little slow. I can see my RPMs creep down a little bit as the propeller loaded up. So we'll go ahead and add 100 RPM there. Still a little slow, so we're going to go ahead and add 22. 22 is normally the sweet spot for an instructor and a student, and full tank of gas. Okay, now, if we want to increase the speed, we've got to decrease the pitch. Watch what happens when I decrease the pitch. The airspeed increases. Okay? If I want to climb, then I need to add power. So I'm at 2240. Let's not change the pitch. So I'm at 7.5 degrees right now. Let's add to 2,400 RPMs, 200 RPMs. Okay, I now have a 300 feet per minute climb. Okay, if I want to descend, notice I have not changed my pitch. My pitch is controlling my airspeed. If I want to descend, let's pull the power back to, we know 22 holds level, so let's pull it back to 2,000. Okay, my airspeed's decaying a little bit, so I'm going to put a little bit of forward stick in. And now I'm coming down at 150 to 250 feet per minute at an airspeed of 51. Maintain your heading. Don't lose your heading, and keep that right rudder in. Okay? So everything in slow flight is slow. That means the descents are slow, the turns are very shallow. I'm going to go ahead and reduce the power further. You can see the airspeed's decaying a little bit, so we'll go ahead and pitch down. Again, pitch controls airspeed, power controls altitude. When we get back to 6,000, what do you think we need as far as a power setting? 2,200. Here it comes. So let's go ahead and just set 2,200. There's 22. Let's pitch for 7.5 degrees. We know that works. Voila. Okay, so that's maybe a little too much, so we'll go ahead and reduce that. Also want to pay attention to your oil temperatures when you're in slow flight, because you are not getting a lot of airflow through the engine, and the airplane is running at higher power settings. All right, now we're going to do a turn. Turns are just gentle and very benign. Just real gentle turns. We're going to turn left, and I'm only going to turn about No more than 20 degrees. Okay, may need to add a little bit of power here. Looking out the window, I looked left to clear the area. I got about 15 degrees of bank right now. Everything's holding steady. You may have to add a little bit of power because you are losing some vertical lift. It's being translated into the horizontal. And we're going to roll out on east. Still holding right rudder. If I let go of that right rudder. Okay, and a nice gentle rollout. And boom. We're pretty much hands off at this point. I can fly the plane with just rudder pedal because I've got it trimmed perfectly right now. All right, again, if you want to descend, you're going to reduce power to about 1800 RPM. You're going to maintain your pitch. If you start to lose some airspeed, just reduce the pitch just a tad. And you can see we got about a 350 foot per minute descent going. Okay, and that's 1700 RPM. Control your airspeed with your pitch, and power will control your altitude. Okay, 5900. Let's go ahead and go back to 2122. Let's see what that gives us. Right, we've arrested the descent. We're staying in slow flight. All right, let's look at some of the errors students make. The first error is they try to control altitude with pitch. Let's watch what happens when I try to control altitude with pitch. So here's the first mistake, trying to control altitude with pitch. We've got everything set up perfectly, and they pitch the nose over to go down. Say we want to go down to 5800. And what happens? Immediately the speed gets out of control. Now they're pulling power because they want to try to get the speed under control using power instead of using pitch. And you can see it gets out of control pretty quick. We'll go back to 2200. We'll set our pitch for 7.5. And amazing, look at that. We are right back to hands-off flying. All right, next thing we're going to do is fly out of slow flight. So we are in slow flight right now, 6,000, 57. We're going to go ahead and add full power. And then immediately drop that first notch of flaps. Do not climb, allow that nose to start to come down. You may have to retrim, take some of that trim pressure out. As we come through VX, reduce that second notch. And as we come through 70, you can release all of it, and your attitude is going to be almost on the horizon there, and you're still flying towards your point. And then retrim the aircraft, and that's slow flight.
Remember, the key to mastering slow flight is knowing the correct pitch and power settings for level flight, turns, climbs, and descents. To review, approximately 2200 RPM and 7.5 degrees of nose-up attitude will result in level flight at 55 knots. Between 1700 and 1800 RPM and 7.5 degrees of nose-up attitude will result in a 200 foot per minute descent at 55 knots. Full power and 7.5 degrees of nose-up attitude will result in a 200 foot per minute climb. Please note that atmospheric conditions and aircraft loading may require the pilot to make slight adjustments to these numbers.